The last episode I dedicated to feelings of home and hospitality, and with this or these episodes I actually wanted to focus on the flip side of this and recount history and events concerning indigenous people in Japan, how the government treated their land and customs, and the effects this has had up to the present day. And that's why for this episode I wanted to focus on the Ainu, coinciding also with the time that I spent on Hokkaido. The Ainu are an indigenous people mainly living in the region around the northern part of the Japanese archipelago, including Hokkaido, Sakhalin, and the Kure Islands, although they are outnumbered in these areas today by Wajin, ethnic Japanese people. Ainu culture, unique language, and worldview developed its own regional differences in each area within Hokkaido, Sakhalin, and the Coral Islands. Ainu culture has been influenced by contact and exchange with the Wajin to the south and other Northeast Asian ethnic groups to the north, Ulchi and Nik. And new expressions of Ainu culture in tune with the modern world continue to be created today. The current Ainu population is not precisely known. It is thought to number in the tens of thousands. Most reside in Hokkaido, but much of the Ainu population migrated to Tokyo, Osaka, and other regions throughout Japan in pursuit of careers, education, or marriage. Hokkaido's Ainu population live in various regions throughout the islands, including Sapporo. The town of Nibutani was reported to have over 80% of residents as Ainu, making it the settlement with the largest percentage of its residents being Ainu in Japan. After initial settlements, eastern and western cultures developed in Hokkaido, to the north and south through exchange with the continent and Sakhalin and exchange with Honshu, Japanese mainland, respectively. These formed the basis of Ainu culture. From then, in the 3rd and 4th centuries, there was a further development of fishing culture as opposed to rice farming in northern Tohoku. There was also trade between the people living in Hokkaido and Honshu, and the culture that had developed in Hokkaido spread to the north of Honshu. In the 5th century, there was an influence of Okkotsu culture along the north of Hokkaido by the Sea of Okkotsu, modern-day Wakkanai. From the 7th century to the 13th century, there was grain and ironware dissemination in Hokkaido via trade with Honshu, a period which became called Satsumon culture. People of Hokkaido would trade furs, fur of bear, deer, seal, otter, and eagle feathers, and fish, especially salmon, from the 10th century onward as fishing became more prominent. From the second half of the 8th century, there was less exchange with the continent and more within Hokkaido itself. Between the 12th and the 13th century, there was a gradual disappearance of earthenware, a practice that had lasted for approximately 10,000 years. In Upopoy, the National Ainu Museum, they do not define the emergence of Ainu culture from the 13th century, a classification that thus far has been made. Their statement is that this is a misconception because the culture was there long beforehand and its traits still exist now. From the 13th century onwards, there was greater trade between Hokkaido of animal furs, kombu, which is kelp, and dried salmon, and Honshu, which changed the local lifestyles. For example, lacquerware bowls from Honshu were then valued as precious goods for the Ainu and used in daily life as well as rituals to offer sake to the kamui, the spirit deities of the Ainu. From the 14th to the 15th century, with trade flourishing, the Wajin, ethnic Japanese, began to settle and expand into Hokkaido. Restrictions meant that the Ainu could not trade with other Wajin except for the Matsumae clan, and were forced to work for Wajin merchants as per the commercial fishing industry set up by the Matsumae clan. In the 18th century, merchants managed trade with the Ainu on behalf of the Matsumae and Tokugawa shogunate to increase profits and used Ainu as fishing laborers. All of this led to the Kunashiri Menashi uprising in 1789 as a resistance to the Wajin merchant oppression. Ainu from Kunashiri Island and Menashi in the east of Hokkaido rose up and repeatedly attacked Wajin trading posts and ships. Ainu elders were called in and persuaded leaders of the uprising to surrender, but the leaders were anyway killed. In 1800, the Tokugawa shogunate defined a national border between Etorofu and Urupu, forbidding trade between the Ainu of Hokkaido and the Kuril Islands. The modernization of Japan following the end of the Tokugawa shogunate in 1867 had an enormous impact on Ainu people who struggled to maintain their identity as an ethnic group, as well as their unique language, culture, and worldview. The Meiji government implemented a policy of development for Hokkaido that involved the large-scale migration of Wajin to Hokkaido and the assimilation of the Ainu people. The government incorporated the land of Hokkaido and Sakhalin Ainu into Japanese territory, drawing a border. Ainu living in Sakhalin and the Kuril Islands who chose Japanese citizenship were ordered to relocate to Hokkaido. Then in Hokkaido, the Wajin forcibly relocated the Ainu ancestors, banning many customs. With the Development Commission, the Ainu were subjected to discrimination in various aspects of their lives. Their unique customs, such as tattoos for women and earrings for men, or burning the houses of the dead for use in the afterlife, were banned, and traditional activities, such as hunting and fishing, were restricted. Traditionally, Ainu had lived off the land, hunting deer and other game, such as bears and seals, fishing for salmon, and gathering local wild plants. They used animal fats for seasoning, and as winter approached, they would dry and smoke meat and fish to preserve them. These were dishes integral to traditional Ainu culinary culture. And so, prohibitions on traditional practices of hunting with poisoned arrows due to risk of injury and fishing for resource conservation caused great damage to Ainu lives, such as starvation. This dramatically changed Ainu lives, and they had to learn to adapt. There was great discrimination and prejudice against the Ainu culture, which was seen as inferior, so it was difficult for people to pass down their culture even at home, even though people still tried. Ainu language was restricted in education and its use declined, as the Ainu were encouraged to learn Japanese. Though created to protect the Ainu, this act in reality prioritized the interests of the Wajin. For example, with traditional fishing and hunting banned, agriculture was encouraged. But the agricultural tracts granted to Ainu were often uncultivable and smaller than those given to Wajin. Even in 1946, when the Land Reform Act was applied to Ainu lands received under this act, some Ainu were designated as absent landlords and lost their lands because they had rented it to Wajin peasants. In 1901, former Aboriginal children education regulations were enacted, which separated Ainu education systems from the Japanese, and Ainu elementary schools had an abbreviated curriculum when compared to Wajin. Ainu language has always had a prominent role in Ainu culture. It is a separate and distinct language from Japanese and other languages of the surrounding region, and has its own dialects. Around 80% of city, town, and village names in Hokkaido are derived from Ainu language. Even the name Sapporo, the main city of Hokkaido, means either dry vast land or vast wetland in Ainu and comes from Ainu. Ainu language is the medium of Ainu storytelling, and Ainu language stories are told for daily activities such as child raising or work, for ceremonial purposes, or to pass down important knowledge. Ainu linguistic culture created a mosaic of oral folklore which does not rely on written words, as the tales and songs are passed down from person to person, constituting a spoken tradition. The style of storytelling changes with each storyteller, their personality and individual technique becoming yet another aspect of the tale to be enjoyed, as well as with the venue or the reactions of the listeners. Research has recognized the tales of Ainu folklore as heroic epics, mythic epics, and prose tales. These are what are called the yukar. UNESCO declared Ainu language as critically endangered. Efforts are currently underway to revive it, but have also been going on for some time. A landmark event in this regard should be the work of Chiri Yukie, born on the 8th of June in 1903 in Noboribetsu, who at 19 years old published the first yukar and kamui yukar, the epic tales and chants of the gods, that had been passed down for generations among the Ainu by developing her own writing system using the Roman alphabet. This occurred at a time when, during the Meiji era, assimilation policies of the Ainu people into Japan were strongly promoted in order to eliminate the existence of the Ainu people, and Ainu culture was on the verge of being lost. These policies, including Japanese language education, resulted in a growing reluctance of the Ainu to use their own language in public or teach it to children, causing it to fade from daily use, also due to its oral nature. For these reasons, Yukie's work was groundbreaking, as it was something that no one else had been able to accomplish among the Ainu. As stated in her notebook, Yukie's drive was to preserve the Ainu language, for herself, for her ancestors, for academics, for Japan, and for the whole world. She hoped for the emergence of a strong Ainu person from among her people. Between the ages of 5 and 6, Yukie lived in the mountains with her grandmother, Monashnuk, a bard of the Horobetsu Ainu tradition, who commanded a vast repertoire of chants and stories. Her grandmother spoke Ainu but not Japanese, which is how Yukie learned Ainu for daily life, as well as the tales and oral traditions of her people. The path of her writing the kamui yukar, the Ainu mythical songs, started with her grandmother and listening to her chants. The kamui yukar, at least in their origins, were almost certainly performances done not purely for entertainment or for didactic purposes, but for reasons of religious efficacy, giving them a sacred nature. According to Ainu beliefs, everything is endowed with a ramat, a spirit, and the ramat is immortal. A person's ramat descends from the other world to this world, where it takes human form and matures before returning to the other world. After a peaceful rest, the ramat is reborn at the discretion of the kamui, the spirit deities. Ainu are constantly watched over by and deeply connected with the spirit deities. They go through life fully conscious of this coexistence with the kamui. Since ramats are also immanent in nature, Ainu are grateful to the ramat of kamui for bringing the blessings of nature. They would never do anything that would sully the earth, not even in jest. The fire kamui, which resides in the hearth of the chise, the house, is the deity with whom the Ainu are most familiar, the one who keeps watch over them. Ainu enjoy a mutually beneficial relationship with the kamui, which they consider as all that is important for humans and all that powerfully influences humans. Kamui differ from most other gods because they are not rulers of the cosmos, nor are they omnipotent. They have emotions just as humans do, and they look and live like humans in the realm of the kamui. Ainu people have performed rituals in order to coexist and interact with kamui. They express gratitude for each and every kamui through reverence and offering of prayers. The Ainu consider bear hunting to be a good opportunity to host the bear kamui as a guest. Bear kamui choose good-hearted Ainu in the Ainu Mosir, the realm of humans, and then descend from the Kanto, the heavenly realm of the kamui, to the Metot, the deep mountain realm of the kamui, and then down to the human realm to offer themselves to them as gifts of meat and fur, which the Ainu can benefit from. The Ainu believe that they are able to hunt game because the kamui have selected them. When the Ainu send back the souls of the kamui to the Metot, they entertain them in Iomante spirit-sending rituals. Here they would entertain the kamui with dances and stories and present ino, ritual sticks with tufted wood shavings, sake, and other offerings in appreciation of the blessings received. When she was 7, Yukie moved to live with her aunt in Asahikawa and attended Ainu school there. Under Meiji assimilation, the aim was to turn the Ainu into good Japanese people, so the language and culture of Ainu children were rejected and were not respected. They were never made to feel proud to be Ainu, and living as an Ainu was accompanied by pain. Yukie studied hard and went to Asahikawa Municipal Women's Vocational School. In her journals, she described her life as difficult, and felt very isolated as the only Ainu student. She never had friendly conversations or felt like she had friends at all. She felt like there was a wall between her and the other students. At the time, the Wajin used the term Ainu with discriminatory meaning, so the Ainu referred to themselves as utari, which in Ainu means compatriots or relatives. This was also the case when they later had publications and associations and so on. Even in 1937, when the Hokkaido Former Aborigines Protection Act was revised and Ainu schools were abolished with Ainu children going to study with Wajin children, they were still discriminated against by the Japanese children. In 1918, when Yukie was 15, she met Kyosuke Kindaichi, an Ainu language scholar, and grew motivated to also research and transcribe the Ainu language. Kindaichi and Yukie began a correspondence focused on the translations between Ainu and Japanese. He encouraged her to write down Ainu and its translations, and she helped him with the Ainu language. Yukie began writing down the Ainu language, including the Kamui Yukara, at 17. She learned the Roman alphabet on her own with the help of her aunt, Kanari Matsu, who would then later go on to also write down the Ainu language and other Ainu epic poems. She transcribed the sounds her grandmother made into the Roman alphabet, then translated these into Japanese. Yukie's transcription of the Ainu language included notations that even Ainu linguists did not intend. In May of 1922, she went to stay with Kyosuke Kindaichi's family in their home in Tokyo to finish the song collection and to publish the book Kamui Yukar. The idea of publishing arose when Kindaichi showed Yukie's Ainu language notebooks to other folklorists. She struggled in the Tokyo heat due to her poor health. She had a heart defect, and her family had not wanted her to go. Yukie finished the proofreading of Ainu mythical songs on September 18, 1922, and then passed away that same night due to this pre-existing heart condition. This version was published without edits and generated newfound interest and respect in her people. To this day, it is the most important testimony of Yukar chants. Yukie's notebooks were designated as a tangible cultural property by the Hokkaido government in 2010, and they are held in the Hokkaido Prefectural Library. In September 2010, the Drops of Silver Memorial Museum opened in Noboribetsu, following a campaign by Chiri Yukie's niece, Miss Yokoyama Mutsumi, inviting people from all over the world to join the project of translating the Ainu myths in different languages. Already in the 1930s, the Ainu in Hokkaido had started to gather to discuss how they would improve their current situation. In 1926, Tsunazawa Ichitaro and other Ainu started the Kaihisha Association with the aim to eradicate discrimination against the Ainu. In 1931, young Ainu discussed Ainu policy at the All Hokkaido Ainu Youth Meeting in Sapporo, and in 1932, Ainu petitioned the Japanese government about the land issue in Asahikawa. In 1964, the Obihiro Kamuyuto Upopoy Preservation Society was formed to preserve and transmit traditional Ainu song and dance. In 1972, the Asahikawa Ainu Council proposed to abolish the Hokkaido Former Aborigines Protection Act. Ainu were vocally opposed to the attitudes of researchers, mainly Wajin, towards Ainu studies. They protested against physical anthropologists having taken Ainu remains from their graves in the 19th century. These were stored at universities and museums in Japan and elsewhere. In some instances, the wishes of the Ainu may not have been considered when these remains were excavated and collected. In light of this history and actions that have been taken to repatriate the remains of indigenous peoples across the world, it was decided in June 2014 that the Japanese government would promote the return of the remains of Ainu people to the Ainu. It was also decided at the time that remains that could not be returned immediately would be transferred to Upopoy, where dignified memorial services would be held by the Ainu, and the remains would be managed properly until a system for their acceptance by the Ainu could be established. They also protested against physical anthropologists having seen the Ainu as uncivilized people. In 1982, the General Assembly of the Ainu Association of Hokkaido adopted a resolution to abolish the Hokkaido Former Aborigines Protection Act for new legislation. At this same time, the Asir Chep Nomi, prayer ceremony for the first salmon returning from the sea, was revived in Sapporo. This was the first time since Ainu customs had been restricted in the Meiji period. In 1984, the Ainu Association of Hokkaido adopted a draft law concerning the Ainu people, and Hokkaido University started an annual Ainu Ikarpa memorial service in front of a specially constructed mausoleum on campus, which enshrined the human remains previously excavated from Ainu cemeteries by the university. The Ainu strongly protested this remark. In 1987, members of the Ainu Association of Hokkaido participated in a UN working group on indigenous populations, and Ainu language classrooms started in Nibutani and Asahikawa. In 1992, Nomura Gichi, chair of the Ainu Association of Hokkaido, delivered a speech as one of the representatives of indigenous peoples at the opening ceremony of the International Year of the World's Indigenous Peoples at the UN in New York. In 1994, Kayano Shigeru, the first Ainu elected to the House of Councillors of the Japanese Diet, extended his greetings in Ainu at a parliament session. The law for the promotion of Ainu culture was also enacted, which recognized Ainu culture as a valuable culture of Japan, and the Hokkaido Former Aborigines Protection Act was repealed. In 2007, the UN General Assembly adopted the Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. The following year, 2008, the Diets of Japan unanimously passed the resolution calling for the recognition of the Ainu people as an indigenous people. The Indigenous Peoples Summit in Ainu Moshir was held that year in Biratori and in Sapporo. In 2009, the Japanese name of the Ainu Association of Hokkaido was changed back to Ainu from Utari, which it had previously been changed to due to the discriminatory use of the name Ainu. The techniques used to make these crafts are still being practiced and are highly valued in the country and abroad. Garment patterns, moreu, were handed down at home, and in the mid-19th century, when it became challenging to hand down Ainu clothing culture, artisans worked hard to protect it. Today, workshops are held to teach traditional Ainu patterns. Embroidery was made with a sense of gratitude towards the ancestors. Embroidered or appliqued patterns on traditional clothing, while made for decoration, would move and sway when worn in rituals and be seen as expressions of gratitude to the kamui. At the Hokkaido Museum, an exhibition of traditional clothing also highlighted the similarity of these patterns with the clothing of other northern peoples. Patterns resemble those on clothes worn by living in Russia's Sakhalin regions, indicating mutual influences through exchanges. In fact, in Abashiri, northern Hokkaido, there is a museum of northern peoples celebrating these different indigenous cultures, their similarities, and points of convergence. Since the end of World War II, the Ainu have been involved in various activities in cooperation with indigenous people from around the world, sharing information about their respective cultures and thinking together about how to move forward. These include the Sami, the Wilta, the Yugur, Tibetan, Inuit, Navajo, Maori, and more. The current Ainu situation is very different, but discrimination and prejudice caused by social ignorance and historical poverty cannot be resolved all at once just by the establishment and passing of laws and resolutions. Upopoy is an Ainu word meaning to sing together in a large group, and embodies the mission of the Upopoy National Ainu Museum and Park, to respect the dignity of the Ainu as an indigenous people, to promote a correct understanding of Ainu history and culture both in Japan and abroad, and to contribute to the creation and development of new Ainu culture. There are many different Ainu songs and dances, which vary by region, and the Ainu sing and dance on many different occasions, during work, while looking after children, dances to pay homage to deities, playful dances, ritual dances, dances to ward off bad deities, dances which mimic animals. Some songs are sung as groups seated on the floor, and they also dance in groups to the accompaniment of singing or rousing shouts. Rimse, Upopo, Horipa, and Chiri are all dances performed in a large circle. For the Ainu, dancing is something to be enjoyed with the deities. Group singing begins with melodies, one by one, until they seem to chase after one another. This produces a complex overlap of voices. These complicated vocal weaves are one of the features of Ainu music. Sometimes they sing to the accompaniment of the tonkori zither. There are also lyrical songs, Yai Katekara and Yai Samanena, mainly sung by women, which express inner feelings such as sorrow and love. Singers have their own lyrics and melodies. Songs sung by individuals have been passed down and enjoyed as folk songs. Musical instruments such as the mukuri, mouth harp, and tonkori, stringed instrument, which originate mainly from Sakhalin, and dances accompanied by songs have been passed down through generations. Drums were used as shamanic tools rather than musical instruments. At Upopoy they sing and dance still, reflecting also the spirit of the museum to hold past objects, but also introduce contemporary Ainu works and people. With an aim to revitalize Ainu culture, it upholds Ainu language first inside the museum. To understand history and culture, it is important to know both about tradition and the present from many different angles. Thus, the museum also displays works that use traditional techniques and knowledge to create new works of art, and exhibits items that represent the everyday lives of the Ainu people today, including household items and archive materials. You can also, in inverted commas, meet contemporary Ainu people and see both what they do for work and how they work aside to revitalize aspects of Ainu culture such as language, dancing, singing, music, carving, and how this is important to them. But these are everyday people, and these are examples of how recently groups throughout Hokkaido and the rest of Japan actively are promoting Ainu cultural heritage, recreating traditional song and dance, or using traditional art forms as the basis for new forms of music. Although slightly different from the previous ones, with this episode I wanted to illustrate and shed light on this history and people, which were unknown to me before coming to Japan, and so that anyone else might know more about them too. And, as is also the spirit of Upopoy, the aim was to hopefully learn from these past situations in the face of present conflicts, and to be a reminder that we need to safeguard the rights and lives of all people across the world, especially ones which might otherwise be forgotten and erased through conflict.